What if I had an imaginary friend? I actually do. I've had her for about 11 months now. She keeps me company, but the problem is other people can see her, so we've got a problem. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. John Krasinski is directing A Quiet Place Part 3. No, this is If, a story about imaginary friends.
What if I told you imaginary friends are real?
So a young girl who goes through a difficult experience begins to see everyone's imaginary friends who have been left behind as their real-life friends have grown up, like I said, directed by John Krasinski, and rated PG for the entire family. There's thematic elements and a little bit of language, but that's it. This is definitely a family film. Take your kids friends, take your friends' kids.
What?
You have Krasinski in the film. Ryan Reynolds is one of our characters, and Kaylee Fleming, who is, I would argue, our star here and lights up the screen every time she is on it. Her story is one that a lot of people are going to be able to resonate with, but the way she just nails some of those delightful moments, and I mean truly delightful. This film, I'm watching it the first 20 minutes, I'm thinking, all right, it's a little bit tragic, very heartfelt, kind of opening like you would expect a Pixar movie to open. And they played a little behind the scenes thing prior to the movie starting, and Reynolds said that. He said, it's like a live action Pixar movie. And the first 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Very different from what we know from John Krasinski as a director, but you can tell there's passion here. And he talked about how he wanted to make a movie for his kids, one they could watch and enjoy. He actually showed them some of the creature design once they got done with it. And say what you will about the movie, the way that things play out, the lack of imagination when it's supposed to be this extremely creative and imaginative film, the intent was there. And you can kind of feel that passion on occasion. As many issues as I had with the story as it was playing out, I'm like, at least Krasinski is injecting some heart. And I think a lot of, especially kids, are going to feel that. If I would have grown up with this at the age of like 8, 9, or 10, I feel like I would have absolutely loved it, because you have the colorful characters on screen. You have the slightly recognizable voices, which kids don't care about as much, but that's how you get the adult butts and seats. Are you seeing this piece of hair here? What is this? What's going on? What is that? Stop it! Steve Carell, Matt Damon, Bradley Cooper, Bill Hader, Richard Jenkins. I could go on and on and on, and every character has a little bit of creativity. I like the character design, and while it's not the best looking CGI with live action that I've ever seen, it's not intended to be that. It's supposed to be an imaginary friend. They have to look kind of imaginary, and I liked those moments with those characters. Unfortunately, even I would argue the main one, played by Steve Carell, they never really get fleshed out on the level that I believe the movie intended, right? They want you to feel something for many of these characters that are introduced, but I really only ever felt something for the actual people on screen, and that is Ryan Reynolds, who is walking around in live action, and our lead, who is once again wonderful. So I wish they would have done a better job developing these imaginary characters, because as a fan of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, all of those imaginary friends that we get on screen are developed and fleshed out. Granted, they have more time, but you could have given us something.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
And so that's an issue when you're watching a movie like this, because we're supposed to care that this little girl is going around and reuniting these imaginary friends with their previous owners. That's what most of the middle portion of this movie is, but those were the moments that felt a little aimless, right? A film like this works really well when you're either against the clock, or you have a very clear mission, or there's a goal that you have to achieve in a certain amount of time, or yada, yada, yada. But there's not really a mission or a goal here. It's just kind of the thing that they're doing, which is sort of a big deal, but they don't really have to be doing it. They're just kind of doing it. And that takes up about an hour of the movie. A little bit at the end of the first act, the second act, and the beginning of the third. And so I'm watching that entire portion, and maybe kids are going to get some joy out of those moments. One very colorful musical dance sequence with Ryan Reynolds and Kaylee, and that was really fun. And I felt life in those moments. I felt that Krasinski's filmmaking was bringing them to life very well. And Giacchino's score, who is one of my favorite composers, was actually really good. When it swells and gets emotional, it works, but when it's big and bombastic and we get those crazy moments, mostly just in that one musical sequence with Ryan Reynolds, that's what you see scattered throughout the trailer, so I definitely wanted more of that. And then we get to the end, and I'm just not really invested in this story as an adult. Again, my opinion doesn't matter as much here. I just felt as if a lot of the second act and a little bit of the third was such a huge missed opportunity for character depth and development, and this premise is awesome. But even those big time voices that we're hearing, some of them only had 2 or 3 lines, and it's like, man, I wish I would have learned more about that character. This could have worked as a series. And so Reynolds' character, I like how he's a little bit more subdued than we're used to seeing him, and I actually thought he fit the role extremely well. And then we get to the end of the movie, and I was tapped out at that point, very disappointed with what we were getting. But the final 25 minutes are actually really heartfelt and beautiful. And that's why I'm so like, man, I could tell they had something here, from the idea to the way Krasinski went about it to the way Reynolds was talking it up before the movie started. And I saw that in the final 20 minutes. And it ended in a beautiful way. The ending was wonderful. That had the heart, the exploration, the emotional moments that I was missing and lacking through the rest of the film. And the last 20 minutes are great. They were genuinely great. But I didn't care enough about the characters and the situation to feel the weight of that moment. And so I think kids are going to feel that. And so if you're looking for a family movie to go to, this might be the one. But for people looking for more depth from our characters and the emotional weight to really impact you at the end, I'm not sure if this is the movie for that. Because it's called If. So before I give you my score, man, I really respect Krasinski for wearing his heart on his sleeve. I wanted to like this more, but I'm not going to dock it too hard for at least hitting some of that target audience. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to drop that like and start a discussion down below. If features a few delightful scenes highlighted by Cailey Fleming and an ending that works well. You can tell Krasinski put a lot of love and passion into this project. Unfortunately, the story lacks the creativity and imagination that the premise promises. It struggled to find its footing after a sweet opening. These whimsical characters have fun and familiar voices, but lack depth. Kids will find it more endearing than adults. And that's what matters at the end, folks. It's all about the children in this case. I am excited for the Pixar movie that we have coming out this summer, and in certain ways, I could see some of that in here. I just wish it was more consistent. But I'm excited to see what Krasinski does next as a director. Thank you all for watching. Come back, more reviews today and this weekend and forever until I die.